In WA earlier, taking second on the Safari, Todd has had the opportunity to compare the two events, commenting on the challenge of the dash.
It's definitely a lot rougher, like because of the traffic and the buggies on before. In the Safari, it's sort of a lot smoother sort of tracks, but they're longer days. But yeah, it's definitely a tough little track.
This is Kirk Williams in action, absolutely dominating on day one. His speed over the ground and consistency would reward him with 20th place outright and over 10 minutes in the lead of the quad section. For Williams, tyre choice would be a big factor in this event.
Today I ran a taller tyre to give me that little bit more speed and also ground clearance because the quads are a lot lower to the ground and the rocks play a big factor to bashing the bike around. Tomorrow I'm going to run a lighter tyre for the load, especially the load with the sand in the river, and get me on top quick.
The 229 quad of Logan Trigg would take second, another with a consistent run, although not quite on the pace of the leader. This day would be tough on the quad field with many out. Regulars Ivan Abreu and John Luliano part of the hard luck stories. Day two of the great race, and is this the changing of the guard? Will the established guns of Robinson Sr. and Vern Strange pass on the mantle to up-and-coming Travis and Todd Smith? Well, 305 Ks of flat-out racing will provide the answers. Either way, it's going to be one hell of a day. The cars to lead the way, and for Robinson Jr., he will be well aware of just how hard Brian will be going.
Dad will be pushing hard, so we should make sure we keep him behind us. But no matter what happens, if one of us wins, it's still a good result.
The river is the main focus for the crews today. It's 140 Ks of power-sapping sand that works the machinery very hard. On board, navigation will be critical, with the co-drivers certainly earning their keep. Some sections extremely difficult to pick. It's one thing to be in a high-powered pro buggy, but for the smaller capacity tin tops, it requires a calculated drive. The tiny Suzuki of Barden and Waldock would show how it's done, first home in this group. Editor of Off-Road magazine Dirt Comp, Randall Kilner, would swap his deadline for a racing line and jump behind the wheel of a diesel-powered Patrol. Although having a heap of fun on day one, his river run would be a shocker, the Patrol spewing out black smoke with a misfire problem and eventually failing altogether. The smaller 1650 buggies cope with the river well, Barton and Leah taking the honours in that category. The production class is becoming very popular with plenty of great battles. The 799 car would eventually be the first into Carnarvon. After a close fight, the extreme four-wheel drive class would go to the Murray-Smith combination. Second and eighth outright to the always specky Land Cruiser of Frank Galea and Lee Coop. First timer to the dash, Pro Truck man Bernie Gwynn would be smiling from ear to ear, and why not? Punting this big wide beast up and down the course with precision would net him and co-driver Chris Mortimer sixth outright. Just one place better, regular state championship contender Bradley Mudge, a clean run all weekend, another good result for this combination. For the two-car Pinjarra engineering team, it would be a mixed weekend. WA man Brad Cooper would debut his new machine very well. His pace down the river exceptional, and if not for an electrical issue just 4 Ks from the end, it would have been a brilliant first outing. His South African teammate would have a great run, fourth outright on one of the toughest off-road events around. He would take home some fantastic memories and a promise to return for another tilt at the prize. Perhaps one of the drives of the event would be that of South Australian Wally Frankham, an unfamiliar car on an unforgiving event and a result of third outright. It's no easy feat to finish the dash, let alone podium it on your first attempt. For Brian Robinson, he would hope that his experience and the youth of his co-driver would be what's needed to catch son Travis down the river.
I've got young gun Trent Gilbertson with me as my navigator, so he's half my age, so he should be able to see the holes that I don't see.
And at what time will the family team orders come into play?
There's none. We've got to just go over to the camp and see there's no team orders.
Well, not a truer word spoken. Looking at this vision, there is certainly no team orders here. This is a spectacular run of super aggressive driving by both these guys. Travis having to show the way and picking the best line. In some cases, very heavily treed sections masking the track, and then high-speed runs with hard-to-see drop-offs. Approximately halfway down the river, this is over 170 k's an hour. On board, the 84 car and the wily old Fox catches the young guns napping, blasting past. Not to be outdone, Travis smashes the throttle to the floor and gives chase. This is as extreme as it gets. The two pro buggies bucking and sliding in protest, the drivers pushing it to the very limit. For the chasing Travis, he and co-driver Paul Curry recognise that they must beat Brian into the next checkpoint to have any chance of keeping them back, and that's exactly what they do with this last-ditch move. Unbelievable control from both teams. Travis would learn from that experience and push out a lead never to be headed. In front all the way back to Carnarvon, the margin 30 seconds for the section and just over 2 minutes for the event. For Brian, a brilliant display of driving, showing he's still well and truly got it. After 3 wins, he would take second for the 09 Gas Dash. It would be the turn of the bike division to take on the might of the Gascoyne River. Would Vern Strange have what is needed to catch the young gun Todd Smith? Would Ersick and Mitchell in turn be able to bridge the gap to the front too? Smith would blast off into the stage, a determined stance on the machine, head down and dust flying. Vern would be his typical aggressive self. We would use the Lockie's knob spectator point as a timing marker, and as Vern saluted Lockie and Jane on his way through, the news would be all bad. Smith had already put 26 seconds on the Yamaha man. It's not long before the riders drop into the riverbed. For Smith, that meant piling on even more speed. He acknowledges our filming helicopter and continues to put more of a gap between he and the chasers. Vern would look to this section to make up lost ground, pushing hard on a surface he knows well. However, 09 is not to be his year. 40 k's down the Gascoyne, it's all over with a blown engine for Strange. Unfortunately, the dramas would continue. Another of the front runners out. Ivan Ersick sidelined with mechanical issues, and a fine run certainly spoiled. The problems for second and third would play well into the hands of Stephen Mitchell. Up into number 2 spot now, and having negotiated the dangerous river section, it was the smooth blast to the finish line and a great result up for grabs. Another of the positive stories, Jamie Chittick would work his way up into a top 10 finish. The up to 250cc 4-stroke class would be won by Suzuki man Russell Scoble with a steady run from prologue to flag. Jared Walker, another with a big effort racing up the leaderboard, 30th in prologue, 25th day 1, 6th on the second leg and 8th outright for the event. Another with a big ride, Jamie Morgan, taking 7th on board his KTM 505. A very popular result for local man Ted Godden, a good weekend's work netting him 6th outright. This is the style that brought a good result for Chad Freeman, a fine 5th in 09. Chris Thomas, no mistakes on day 2, consolidating his event, taking 4th outright. It's been a tough event for the four-wheelers, the course significantly rougher, this group having to work overtime. The familiar bright orange helmet of Richard Maxted on board the 450 DX Can-Am. A good weekend's work, this dash regular picking up 3rd spot. Second outright would go to Logan Trigg. He consolidated his Saturday form, coming home well after the 300 plus Ks of the gruelling day 2 stage. The number 42 YFZ 450 of Kirk Williams would take the class from flag to flag. A dominant event for this rider, putting in a strong time on day 1, making the right bike changes for the second leg and taking the honours.